Welcome to the Eric Brady podcast, Series 1, Adolf Hitler, His Bombers and Me. Episode 22, The Terrors. Eric, you were moved to Chase Farm Hospital, a military hospital. You wrote in your book about the terror you felt there at one time. Tell us about that.
At the end of the ward, there was a door marked ablutions, which it would be, being a military-style hospital. And my terror of that was that I was convinced that there was, went in the door, there's a line of wash basins on the right. There were a line of toilet cubicles on the far wall. And then at the other end, there was a very large alcove in which all kinds of medical kit was stored, wheelchairs, crutches, elbow crutches, all sorts of junk like that. And I became convinced that in that alcove, there is a squad of Hitler's top soldiers waiting to kidnap me. Why on earth I got that idea, I've no idea at all. But it's just like some children do get the idea that there's a tiger under the bed or in the wardrobe, one waiting to jump out on them. And this terror was there for me. And so when I needed a wash, because the nurse told me I had to have one, I would go into the ablutions. In the wash basin closest to the door, I'd put in a bit of water, a quick scrub with my flannel over my face, didn't bother about my hands, quick scrub with the towel, and I was out, keeping a watch all the time on that terrible alcove for those soldiers just about to jump out on me. And going to the toilet was a real problem. I'd wait until the very last minute and then go to the cubicle furthest away from that awful alcove. And as soon as I possibly could, I would dive out again as soon as I'd finished doing what was necessary. And then one day, I spoke to a soldier about it. He was a very fatherly kind of guy. And he didn't make fun of me or tell me I was being stupid. What he did was to tell me that he'd go with me into the ablutions because he was sure that there were no German soldiers waiting there for me. And so we went in together. I was holding him with my left hand, and in my right hand I had a tap, one of the old-fashioned types of taps, which I thought might frighten the German soldiers, thinking it was a gun. And I went in with him. We looked in the alcove, no sign of any soldiers. So I said, well, they could be hiding among all the stuff that's there. And so the soldier said, right, we'll shift it all out. And with him doing most of the work, one-handed, because I was clutching his other hand for him to fight off these German soldiers. And he took everything out. No sign of a soldier there. And so I said, are they hiding under the floor? Fortunately, there was no trapdoor there, leading to sanitation or whatever, and nothing there. What if they're up in the ceiling? I said. So we checked that, no trapdoor opening into a loft. So then we carefully searched the walls for any signs of a hidden doorway. And at the end of it, the soldier said to me, well, no signs of any German soldiers, so they can't be here at all. And very relieved, we put the paraphernalia back into that alcove. After that, I would very carefully go into the ablutions, my tap gun in my hand, and look into that alcove for any sign of the German soldiers. But of course, there never were any.
Were there any longer-term psychological effects of being buried under the rubble for what must have been 7 hours or so?
When I was under the rubble, darkness had fallen because I wasn't dug out until about 7:30 in the evening, we reckon, and this was 20th of January. And as the rescuers were at work, there were they brought up big floodlights. But when the German bombers came back again that night to bomb, in fact, another part of London, those big floodlights had to be doused. Otherwise, of course, they'd have bombed that. And they were just using torches. And that would flash across my eyes from time to time as they were searching, because I had rubble and floorboards and all sorts on top of me. So there'd be little gaps that the torchlight would shine through. And many years later, this became the stuff of nightmares. I'll talk about this now because it was relevant to what happened at that point. And the nightmare was that I was going up the stairs of my house, where I was living, of course, with my parents and younger brother. And at the top of one flight, there was a right turn with a small landing there, and then 3 more steps up to the other landing from where the 3 bedrooms led off. Over each door was a transom window. And the nightmare was that I would be going up the stairs, turn right, and at my bedroom, the light would be flashing on and off. And the nightmare was that I was absolutely terror-stricken. And to the extent that I fell back against the wall and just huddled there. And then one time I had the nightmare 3 nights in a row, and the 4th night I wouldn't go to bed. And my father was out on one of his overnights, and there was just my mother. Eddie, my younger brother, had gone to bed long before, and I would use the excuse I just wanted to listen to the end of the radio program. I wanted to finish a chapter of a book. I had homework to do that I'd forgotten earlier in the evening, and my mother knew that was a lie. And so she asked me very gently what was the matter. Now I remember finally I'd huddle at her feet as she was sitting in an armchair, and I told her, crying and shaking with absolute terror. And my mother said, "What is the cause of that, Eric, is that you are thinking back in your dream to the time you were in the school, and the lights of the torches of the rescuers were flashing across, and as they moved the torches, sometimes moments, the light would flash through onto your eyes and then move as the rescuers were searching. And now that you've told me, you'll never have that nightmare again." And I never have. Though I do remember precisely what the nightmare was and the terror, I've never had that nightmare again. It is quite amazing and shows the wisdom of my mother.
To buy your copy of Adolf Hitler, His Bombers and Me to read alongside the series, go to ericbradybooks.co.uk. The Eric Brady podcast can be found on YouTube, podcast services, and at ericbrady.blogspot.com.